Welcome, everybody, to today's LinkedIn Live event with Phelps United. I'm Vince Lombard, the SVP of Sales and Marketing for Phelps United, and today I'm joined by
Adam Schaefer. I'm president of Phelps United.
And Nikolai Tommen, Vice President of E-commerce.
and we're here today to talk about some of the topical things happening with Amazon and their marketplace. Adam, what do you have your eyes on these days?
Well, other than you, Vince, I have my eyes on the fact that we should tell everybody where we are, because we are not just in some room doing a podcast or a LinkedIn Live. We're in downtown Miami. That is super cool. So thanks for having me down here today.
Absolutely. I wouldn't describe it as super cool. I would describe it as quite warm.
Very warm.
Yes.
Very warm. Well, I definitely have some things I want to talk about. There's so much going on in the world of Amazon, and it changes by the minute, not even by the day where things are happening. But remember, Amazon, and why we like to talk about Amazon, it's the largest marketplace in the U.S., probably the world. I mean, there's some Asian marketplaces that are a little bit bigger, but in the U.S., you're talking about $600 billion of merchandise that gets sold through Amazon. And we spend our lives working with brands trying to help them navigate this incredibly complex world. And it could be complicated. It looks like a lot of fun. I think a lot of people think, hey, I'll put my products on Amazon and we'll make $1 million. Not so easy. So we get to spend time with brands every day, hearing their pain points and some of the things they're trying to accomplish on Amazon. And we try to help them figure out the best ways and the best strategy to master Amazon and be successful on Amazon. So the biggest thing, the number one thing that I've been seeing lately is, and I think it's because of the season, is that brands that are selling directly to Amazon, which is called 1P, have been migrating to 3P. And the big difference is, Nikolai, why don't you tell us the big difference between 1P and 3P? Here's a test.
There's definitely a few differences between 1P and 3P. Depending on the team and the support that you have to run your Amazon business, there's going to be two different avenues you can choose. What we're seeing a lot is existing brands going generally direct to 1P, which is first party selling direct to Amazon, where Amazon takes ownership of the goods and then moves that product to the end user. And it's a pretty easy flowing business where you're fulfilling POs, collecting payment, and replenishing. Where 3P can be much more lucrative at times. It offers a lot more control over a brand as you get your ownership on the product listings, the detail pages, how much inventory you're stocking at FBA. And there's a lot of pros and cons to both parties. But generally what we see is, depending on the brand's outlook and where they're trying to go and how they're trying to grow, 3P is generally more geared towards the long-term success for their Amazon marketplace.
And what we've been seeing is, and again, we're talking to brands that are quite big, some that are mid-tier, and some that are small. And in almost every case, they have the same pain points with selling to Amazon, and that is Amazon's getting a bit more aggressive, trying to make a bit more margin, trying to get more advertising from them, more advertising dollars, that is. And it's becoming harder and harder. So they go through this process every year called AVN. And through that, the last AVN process, we've been seeing many of these 1P brands starting to want to migrate over to 3P, but they're scared because they don't know the best way to do that. Should they do it themselves and create their own 3P store on Amazon and take the chance of maybe getting Amazon angry with them, or do they find a 3P seller that they could trust and work with them, or do they just open market and let other 3P sellers sell their stuff? So it's kind of an interesting situation, but they do feel that they want to take more control over their brand and migrate a little bit. So what we've seen and what I've seen for sure is that many brands that were 100% selling to Amazon have now gone hybrid. So it's not like they're selling everything 3P. They're selling some stuff 3P and they're selling some stuff 1P. And they're migrating some of their ASINs or their SKUs over to a 3P provider, somebody like Phelps United. So why are they doing this? I mean, they're doing it because they're trying to control their price. They're trying to make more margin. They want to accelerate, focus more on certain ASINs. And so there's a bunch of reasons. It could sometimes be that they're afraid Amazon's not going to keep enough stock of a certain SKU, so they need somebody else to keep an eye on it for them. But hybrid has been the big thing, I think, for this year. And I read a number the other day that said something like 74% of the brands that sell to Amazon are now hybrid, which, that's like 40% more than the year before. Now, I didn't make that up. I read it somewhere. So I don't know. What's your thoughts?
So I think leads into a very interesting conversation. There's a lot of people within the Amazon space that over the last 5 to 8 years have noticed that Amazon's been crawling up their minimum GMV for 1P brands to sell through the first party platform. And what we saw very early on in the Amazon days is they would take any brand that wanted to sell direct to 1P, launch them, and slowly grow the business. But if the business wasn't growing as quickly as Amazon was, they started eliminating a lot of their 1P brands, forcing these brands to go to 3P. And that's become a big conversation, talking point within the industry is what is going to be the minimum GMV for a brand to stay within the 1P platform. Over the years, we've seen them raise it from $1 to $5, $10 million of GMV annually. And if they're not meeting those criteria, we see their margin profiles have to be a certain percentile, which often is near to impossible for a brand. So we're going to see where this goes. The AVMs over the last quarter really pushed out a lot of brands, and now they're having to explore this hybrid approach for selling their product 3P and 1P. But I think it's a safe play. They're being able to establish themselves as a 3P player, learning the ins and outs of how the two different programs work, because they are very different, and it's not plug and play to either. So as they progress within their Amazon business, they can learn to scale both depending on their situation.
But why wouldn't a brand just do it themselves? Like, why choose a third-party provider to help you with 3P?
It's kind of like I said at the beginning, Amazon changes by the minute. So if you don't have an infrastructure, if you don't have lots of people that are focused on managing your Amazon business, they have to add a lot more cost to manage this. They have to be good at logistics. They have to be good at marketing. They have to be good at content creation. They have to be watching their ASINs every single day. They can have some systems to help them manage it, but it's not easy. And then when something goes wrong, like Amazon loses their products and they have to chase it, or somebody has an issue with their product and Amazon has a question, somebody's got to answer all this stuff. So there's a customer service element.
So it's not like you take your existing e-commerce guys and repurpose them to manage your Amazon business.
It's way more complicated than that. And you're going to have to add a bunch of people. And it's not just people, it's people in different disciplines. So it's really not super easy to do. Some do it. Some were born on Amazon and they started as a 3P 100%. But those that were 1P only and they're trying to migrate and be hybrid now or move everything to 3P, it's like they don't want to do it. They want to make great products. They want to think about making great products, but they don't want to have to manage the intricacies of Amazon or any e-commerce for that matter.
Makes sense.
So we talked about this hybrid thing. So I think that's like the biggest thing that I've seen this year. And I think it's because, as Amazon's growth has slowed, although it's still growing and it's still monstrous, they've been focused a bit more on profitability, and they've been trying to get as much as they can from their manufacturing partners, their brand partners. Also, freight is expensive, and the bigger the product, the more expensive it is to ship, and that's not getting any cheaper. And so they're actually doing more analysis and realizing that they need to make a bit more money because it costs a lot of money to ship this stuff. So, the ideal product on Amazon is something that's really small, has a high average selling price, could fit in an envelope or something like a bag and ship and be done with it. Where things that are heavier, there's a much bigger expense to shipping it, especially the way Amazon ships. They want to ship 1 and 2 day. So hard to do and expensive to do when it's a heavier product.
And on some of that small stuff, I think it qualifies for the small and light program, right? And wasn't there, Nikolai, some changes coming to that program pretty soon?
Yeah, that's correct. The small and light program has been around for at least 5 years. We've seen a lot of changes over the course of the last 5 years on the different program requirements. As of today, it's sitting at $12 as the minimum price point, and it has to fit within a certain dimensional box in order to qualify for a very premier tier of freight costs. And on the 29th of this month, for the first time in about 9 months, they're changing the program once again. And they're getting more aggressive where the maximum average selling price has to be $10 or less. However, although they're reducing the ASP price point for the program, they're also benefiting sellers by getting even more aggressive with their freight rates. And what we're going to be seeing is an all-time low for freight rate on product fitting in this category, which is going to be a big dilemma for brands figuring out, do they change their MSRP if it's a price point that doesn't meet the requirement? Or is it more strategic to reduce their MSRP, get the lower freight rates, and still make close, if not more margin, depending on the product in the category? So it's going to be a talking point over the next couple of weeks to see what brands are doing, because it could change entire catalogs and portfolios of brands to meet a program that really is beneficial, but difficult to meet.
But I mean, I talked about how freight is so important. It's a big part of the equation of being profitable and not profitable on Amazon. And I talked about the heavier products. But when it comes to very light products, this small and light program has benefited so many. I mean, we were selling nail glue, and the nail glue, the selling price was $4.99. Maybe it was $3.99. And we were able to make money on it with Amazon's Prime shipping, which is shocking because it's incredibly, very difficult to be able to ship something, put it in a package, and ship it to somebody 1 and 2 days for the rate that Amazon's been able to give us in the small and light program. So on the far side, you got heavy stuff, costs a lot of money to ship. The smaller and lighter, and the lower the price, Amazon actually makes it a lot easier for you if you qualify. You know, that's super important. So that's coming up now. When does that officially start?
It's going to be on August 29th, so about a week from today.
That's pretty cool. So we talked about this hybrid approach. We talked a little bit about this small and light program, but the one thing that I've been seeing a lot of brands have issues with are controlling their channel and getting the pricing to be not below what their street price is. And what do I mean by that? I mean by when a brand sells products to other retailers outside of Amazon, and then Amazon sellers are selling it below what you'd be able to buy at retail, everybody runs to Amazon to buy it because it could be cheap. And the retailers that have been loyal to the brands for so long get angry, and it's called channel conflict. And one of the biggest pain points we've seen is, how do I work with somebody to help me control my pricing and my channel so I don't create this channel conflict? And that's a tough one because it's like playing whack-a-mole, trying to find bad sellers that are selling your price below the minimum advertised price and getting them off. So, to me, I see brands wanting to go to 3P more because they can control their pricing more. Tell us why, Nikolai, you see more people wanting to go to 3P to control their pricing.
Yeah, well, great point with the ASP on Amazon, and the difference between 1P and 3P is Amazon maps and channels other marketplaces, figuring out what your product is selling for, whether it's on Best Buy or Newegg or Walmart, and they'll match pricing, and they have that in their terms with the 1P contract because they want to ultimately be the most competitive seller, and you kind of give that up when you sign that contract. And if your price breaks on these other channels and you're not controlling those channels, Amazon will follow suit. And now it's a race to the bottom because everyone's trying to play the pricing game, figuring out how they can be the most competitive. And that's become a big talking point where now brands are flipping to 3P, where you can hold the ASP. You're not limited by a competitive price point on Amazon. And now you get full control. You don't have to worry about volatility outside of your rogue resellers that pop up every once in a while, which leads into more of a brand protection aspect. However, you get to keep at least the selling price as consistent as possible through a 3P channel, as you're the one dictating the selling price, not Amazon.
So it's really important to understand that if you want to keep your products at your minimum selling price, which could be your list price, it could just be a minimum street price you want to have the products at, you need to control the price. And when you let Amazon manage that, of course, Amazon wants to make as much as they can, but if anybody in any market, on any e-com site, in any retail store selling it below that at any moment in time, Amazon has the right to lower the price. And then once they lower the price, everybody else lowers their price. And as Nikolai said, it's a race to the bottom. So that's something that we try to help brands with. And when we work with them, we try to make sure they understand we will make sure that your pricing is your minimum advertised pricing, and we'll help you find some of the rogue sellers on the marketplace to help get them off. Big deal. Brands love it. So it's a, part of the why I want to go hybrid kind of decision.
And to that point, a lot of brands now select their catalog to figure out what they want to move 3P versus 1P. And that's one of the biggest factors is what are the problem SKUs that they're having channel pricing with and what's creating a lot of conflict on the marketplace. So now you can strategically select your catalog on what you want to run 1P versus 3P. If you know you have a SKU or a model line that you can regularly hold your MAP pricing as consistent as possible, you can now dictate the SKUs or the other assortment that has all the market conflict and pull that off of 1P and then start managing through a 3P platform.
So again, changing the topic to another pretty big deal that's going on is when we got into the business, they had a program, and they still have the program, but it was called Seller Fulfilled Prime. Seller Fulfilled Prime, so let's go with it, is FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon, which is where you get the products, you send it up to Amazon, and they ship it for you, and it's Prime 1 and 2 days. And you get it fast. There's a Prime badge on your product, and that's super cool. Everybody loves buying things that are 1 and 2 day delivery for free. Then there's what they call FBM, fulfilled by merchant, which is where the seller will ship it from their own warehouse or warehouses or their 3PLs, and they'll ship it directly to customers through the Amazon system. And they're using sometimes Amazon's freight carriers, sometimes their own freight carriers, and they ship it usually ground. And with FBM, you don't get the Prime badge. So it could take longer to get, and it definitely doesn't help sales, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get any good sales. I've definitely seen some great products selling FBM that people buy, and they just have to wait a few more days. But Amazon has this program called Seller Fulfilled Prime, or SFP, and only a small quantity of the, say, 2 million sellers on Amazon have this medallion and this ability to be able to sell products and ship it from their own warehouse, not from Amazon's FBA, and ship it overnight or 2 day and get the Prime medallion on the product. So think of that. If somehow you didn't get product up to Amazon in time for them to have it in stock and you're running out of stock, you could still ship it from your own warehouse, keep the Prime medallion, and get it to the customer in 1 and 2 days. But the thing is, you got to get it to them in 1 and 2 days. So as Amazon has gotten much more careful about making sure that the service levels were super high, many of the SFP medallion holders fell out. So there's a lot less of them. So it's an incredibly important medallion to have when you need to use it. What's happened is they basically ended that program, but recently they opened it back up again, and they're letting more and more sellers back in the SFP program, the Seller Fulfilled Prime program. But one big caveat, and the caveat is, Nikolai?
They are raising pricing for the SFP metrics in order to account for freight. And to your point, SFP, Amazon loves their programs. This is one of their legacy programs that, like Small and Light, has changed a lot over the last 5 to 10 years. This was a program that was open enrollment for any sellers that were capable of fulfilling inventory out of their warehouse. And they needed to prove that they had means to ship within certain timeframes to meet the requirements Amazon held for this program. And as the years went on, a lot of sellers were taking advantage in order to maximize their selling potential by having this SFP or the Prime medallion on their listings. And ultimately what happened is they weren't meeting the deadlines that Amazon set for the program requirements. And from there, Amazon realized that a lot of customers were getting taken advantage of, thinking they were going to get 2 day or even overnight or 1 day shipping. And ultimately the product was coming in 3, 4, 5 days. And this limited a lot of trust within the Prime world. And from there, they started they started implementing much stricter requirements in order to make sure that sellers were being upheld for the program. And to your point, as we've seen over the last 2 years, is every month more sellers dropped from the program as they weren't able to meet this overnight delivery time for any other SFP products. And SFP is great for small inventory, but if you're shipping a overnight TV that's 65 inches from Southern California to Connecticut, you're paying a small fortune on that. So what happened is they no longer used the program. They got dropped from the program, and over the years, anybody that had the means to do it, whether it was multiple DCs, try to stay within the program. And to your point, they're now reopening enrollment. They are relaxing the requirements marginally, as even FBA product can't get delivered within 2 days. And now it's open enrollment. However, they are going to be charging a surplus on orders that go out in order to make sure that sellers are just as committed to offering this 2-day or overnight delivery time and keep the program in a very tight metric system in order to offer customers the best possible.
And it's, I think it's about 2% more. So 2% incremental on top of your freight, on top of all the fees you're paying. So if you're going to do SFP, you got to have a lot of margin in this product to be able to do it, because not only are you paying for the freight and the Amazon fees, and the fees are, they run anywhere between 8 and 15%, 17% I've seen on some clothing products. You have to pay another 2%. And then there's the freight, which the freight could be anywhere between 3% to 20% of the cost. So it's not super cheap, but it is a super good thing to have. And I'm kind of bummed that they raised the price. I would have liked for them to have less people in it and keep it the way it was, but I guess you got to make a buck.
But to that point, Phelps offers all 3 programs to the partners or brands that we work with. So we do Seller Fulfilled Prime, we do FBA, and some FBM. What's our split across those 3 different vehicles for brands to sell? I think my majority is FBA.
I mean, I'd love to get it all to be FBA, but the problem is sometimes, it takes a while to get product to Amazon. Sometimes it could take 7 to 10 days. Sometimes it could take a couple of months, depending on how you ship it up there. Believe it or not, we've had things that take multiple months before Amazon gets it, unloads it, makes it available for selling. So having product in your own warehouse and being able to fulfill from your own warehouse really covers that gap, but you definitely don't want to be out of stock. Think about having a product that you work really hard to get the velocity high so you can get a high ranking, and you really got things humming along, and then boom, you don't have stock. You don't have stock, you can't sell it. If you can't sell it, your ranking is going to start to drop, and your velocities start to drop, and it's going to be hard for you to get back in to that groove. You can do it. People do it every day, but it's like digging back out of the hole. So you want to make sure you're never out of stock, and both FBM and SFP are ways that you can make sure that you're never out of stock of a great selling product.
Got it. So, and the SFP is Prime from your warehouse.
Correct.
Yeah, and we normally take advantage of that program during the holiday season or any type of big event on Amazon. Generally, we'll do a hybrid between FBM and FBA, make sure we always have coverage in one or the other. And then generally, once the holiday season comes around, that's when we really can utilize SFP, whether there's production issues, FBA is taking too long to receive inventory and you're going to gap out. That's when we step in with SFP, making sure that we're winning buy box, we're registering on the Prime page when customers are sorting by Prime orders. And it's a very strategic service that we can offer during that period just to maximize sell-through and efficiency.
And for the seller, there's definitely benefits to having things at FBA. No matter what, if you're the 3P seller and you put product at FBA, Amazon is responsible for the delivery of the product. They're responsible for the promise of the 1 and 2 day, whatever the delivery date they promise. It's up to them. So if a customer gets upset, it's Amazon that takes the beating, not the seller. But at the same time, when you ship stuff up to Amazon, you really got to account for it, because Amazon sometimes will move product from warehouse to warehouse, damage product, lose product, and you got to keep your eye on all this and always be reconciling your inventory, because if you lose it, they're not going to come and say, hey guys, we lost your inventory. You got to understand they lost the inventory or misplaced the inventory, and you got to put in case after case to go chase it. So another great reason to have a 3P partner. But if you're a 1P seller and Amazon buys product from you and you ship it there and somehow they didn't receive it, you, the seller or the manufacturer, has got to go chase it also. Different windows to reconcile, but you're responsible for that product until it's in stock at Amazon if you're 1P. And if you're a 3P seller, you're always responsible. You own that inventory up at Amazon. they're kind of your 3PL, but you're owning it. They'll take responsibility for it if they lose it, but you got to catch them and you got to file your cases and prove it. Now, when they ship it and the UPS guy drops it in the mud and something happens, they're going to get the return, you're going to get the return, but they deal with it all. When you ship the product FBM, you're responsible for all of the customer service. You're responsible for the replenishment of the product to make sure that the person gets the replacement product or crediting their product. So there's a lot of extra responsibility that comes with FBM, but you definitely can account for your inventory a little bit better. Once it goes up to Amazon, it's up in the ether, and you got to really keep your eyes on it every day and see what they have in inventory and see if it reconciles to what you sent them. So a lot of work. I make it sound complicated because it is. You got to watch it every single day, whether you're the brand selling to Amazon or you're the 3P that's shipping product up to Amazon. So FBM, a lot easier to account for your inventory, but you got a lot more responsibility in the customer service part of it.
So that some of the unique capabilities that you need to account for when you're thinking about trying to take it on or choosing a partner.
For sure. I mean, and some brands use 3PLs, and some of the 3PLs are better than others, but you know, it's not their stuff. Like they don't own the brand. I don't know how to explain it other than you need a partner that's in it with you, and just handing it off to a 3PL to believe that they're going to do the job for you is really hard. There's always a big turnover in these warehouses with people. They don't understand all the intricacies of labeling product and shipping it to customers. And then there's the customer service part of it. So again, 3PL, okay, I'm sure there's some that do a decent job. I don't know them all because we don't really need to leverage them. But when we do it, or a trusted 3P does it, they're responsible for that product. They own that product. They got to make sure that it's happening.
And that doesn't even get into making the product discoverable, the SEO, the product content, and all those other things that are wrapped into the services.
That's just purely the logistics. I mean, making sure people can find your product on Amazon is a completely different art.
Yep.
That's its own podcast.
Yeah.
So, but we could talk about that if you want. But one thing that I wanted to bring up, that it's always kind of got me a little baffled is Prime Day. Like, so we dig Prime Day. We think it's an awesome time to have a promotion. In July, Amazon usually has Prime Day, or what they call Prime Day. It's really Prime Day. It's 2 days. And the sales spike during that July period, and July is really usually a tough month, so it's really good to have Prime Days in that month. It's a great accelerator to selling. Although sometimes there's a lot of discounting that goes on, so a lot less margin. It's a great way to just, nothing is better than seeing a great couple of sales days in the middle of the summer. But now Amazon has another Prime Day, and this is, I think, maybe the third year they've done it. Maybe they had it in the past, but I just remember the past few years where they've introduced another Prime Day, and they might not even call it Prime Day. I think they call it something else. But it is a Prime Day, and it happens in October. And what I always used to worry, and I still do a little bit, is that does that take the punch out of the holiday? And, I don't know what you think. I mean, I think, the jury's out, but it's still a pretty successful day.
Yeah, it's always going to be successful when Amazon's promoting it as much as they do. Maybe I'm a little biased. I definitely don't have the data to back it, but from our experience and what we see, we definitely experience it takes a lot of the momentum out of the Black Friday and Cyber Monday time period, which most people are accustomed to for promotions and discounts. And the Prime Day that happens in July is always a great spike. Normally not a lot of seasonal or holiday promotions going on that time. So it's a great way to choose sales for the month. It helps you, if you hit it right, crank your rankings up and sell through that third quarter and fourth quarter until you get to the holiday promotion. But to your point, they are introducing the second Prime Day again. I believe you are right with this being the third year that they're doing so. And from what we see, it definitely cannibalizes sales in the long term of Q4. And there's a lot of conversation on why they do this. I think it's more or less pretty.
I mean, everybody wants more sales. If we can have a holiday every month, it'd be great. But I do worry a little bit because there's another rush to get product in stock and available up at Amazon. There's more discounting that goes on because you want to have promotions for their big holiday. And then Black Friday and Cyber Monday, those are the big days. I mean, no matter what, Prime Day was awesome in July, but the second Prime Day isn't as powerful by any means. I mean, I think it depends on what product you have, but for the most part, I think if you look at their numbers, Prime Day 1, the July one, is more powerful. October Prime Day is a nice pop, but Black Friday and Cyber Monday is like that's the Super Bowl still, no matter what.
Absolutely. I think where you should be taking advantage of the second Prime Day or Prime Day 2 is prepping yourself for the holiday season, making sure you're taking advantage. And to your point, you're going to be discounting product, but in the long term, you're going to get the rankings up on your product listings. You can test a lot of promotions to see how the sell-through performs. And now you're gearing yourself up for a very, very aggressive Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
I'm sorry, Vince.
Well, I just think that many brands have the muscle memory for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and they have their logistical operations and their discounting schedules set up for that. So with the upcoming Prime Day, like when do they need to start thinking about getting inventory to FBA, all of those steps? Like what's the lead time to an October Prime Day to be ready to take full advantage of that, as well as the Black Friday, Cyber Monday holiday?
So it's very similar to the first Prime Day that they do in July. And unfortunately, they don't give a big window for sellers to take advantage of the program. Normally, once they announce it, you have about 2 weeks to submit your deals and your promos that you want to run through Amazon in order to maximize the holiday season. Otherwise, you're prepping your product, you're getting your product manufactured immediately, and you're getting it overseas into your barn and getting it ready to go up to FBA day one. And they don't give you much of a time frame in order to prep much ahead of time.
No, I mean 2 weeks to get product from someplace in your warehouse in some state up to Amazon FBA. That's not a hell of a lot of time at all. I mean, it's too. You got to be doing it way before.
Now that we know the historical of Prime Day and we can plan ahead, but they don't release the dates until just about 6 weeks before the event.
So you could be off by a couple of weeks, but and that's what kind of it's a bummer. It's a tough biz, and that's retail in general. I mean, the big brands ship products to the big box stores. With Amazon, if you're a seller, you're buying the products. You're paying for the products in say 30 or 45 days from your brands, but it could take, like I said, 2 months to get the product up to Amazon before it's even selling. And it sounds extreme, 2 months. Sometimes smaller packages get up there faster, but if you're shipping truckloads of product, it could take literally 2 months, a month and a half. And so you're owning that product sitting on trucks going up to Amazon, and you can't convert it into cash for a while. So you got to, keep more inventory than you normally would if you were selling your own direct-to-consumer through your own site, because you got to make sure that you got the product in stock at Amazon. Again, you got the ability to ship it from your own warehouse, FBM, but with that Prime badge on at FBA, it's going to sell better. I mean, there's no doubt that products that are Prime sell 20, 30% better than none, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I read a statistic where 38% of shoppers, the first thing they do after searching for a product is flip for the Prime badge. And customers expect 2-day shipping now.
For sure. Yeah, and it's going to make it interesting, but another thing I read is that Amazon's going to start shipping products without the packaging on it. I don't know how that's going to do. They say they're doing it with 10% of the products. I think it would be kind of creepy for my underwear to show up not inside the box, but I hate to have to throw out the boxes anyway and cut them up, and so I think it could be good as long as they don't drop it in the mud. Maybe that's good, but I don't know.
Amazon stated that they've done this for certain product brands or product that meets a package qualification that's up to their standard for whether or not they rebox the product. So they've been doing this for a while now on a very select amount of SKUs. But I mean, we've seen product show up at customers' doorsteps in the original packaging, which now it changes the game whether you invest in better packaging for your product in order to meet Amazon's classification for what is their tiered packaging, or if you go through the program and allow them to rebox your product. What we don't know just yet, though, is the pricing impact. If you make your packaging qualified for Amazon standard for end user freight if you're going to see a reduction in the FBA fee. And depending on the size of the product, the packaging, it
I
could
mean, if they reduce that FBA fee, I would definitely do everything.
now,
we can,
yeah,
for
now you
sure.
consider it. Yep.
For sure. So I guess, you talked about what are the big things. I definitely think this hybrid thing, understanding the holidays and being prepared for the holidays, making sure you're not out of stock. But Amazon is a learning experience. It just never, ever stops. It's like the ocean. Once you figure something out, there's something else that happens. There's something else that they throw at you. Sometimes they don't announce things. You just got to figure it out, be part of a community of people that are either doing it, and you can ask people questions. Hey, have you ever seen this before? This is really weird. And people say, yeah. So there's a lot of Amazon communities that you join, but it's also by doing it every day where you learn and you understand what the changes are. So hard for brands to do that and keep up with it, but it's really good for brands and for 3P sellers to understand Amazon, at least from from the high end. And so they have lots of education, there's lots of videos, but there's a really cool show that we've been going to that's really geared towards 3P sellers that happens in September, and that's called Amazon Accelerate. And we went to that last year, and we're going to go again this year. I mean, what were your thoughts? I thought it was a really pretty good show.
Yeah, that was a very well done show for one of their. They started introing this just a few years ago, and for what it is, they do a wide assortment of very entry level informationals on just Amazon basics to very in-depth, different ways you can utilize specific programs to maximize your business. So whether you're a small brand or a large brand, experienced or very unexperienced on Seller Central or Vendor Central, it's a event that's very beneficial to all. So
I mean, I learned a hell of a lot there. And what's interesting is that sellers in general, and I'm talking about what we call the 3P sellers, we think we're all third-class citizens. Maybe that's why they have it 3P. But why do we think that? Because at Amazon, the customer is king. Everything Amazon does is for that end user that buys the products to have the greatest experience of all time. Now, 3P sellers, because they're spending so much money on advertising, on Amazon fees, and servicing that marketplace, we want to believe we're customers of Amazon too, which we are. But we definitely don't get the same kid gloves treatment that an Amazon end user customer that's buying from Amazon gets. So this Amazon Accelerate lets us feel like we're actually part of their community, that Amazon does care about us, even though, we think they don't. You have to remember there's 2 million sellers on the marketplace, and maybe there's a few 100,000 that bring the majority of the gross merchandising revenue through Amazon. And you have to also remember 3P is bigger than 1P when it comes to revenue on Amazon. About 65 to 67% of the revenue that goes through Amazon is from 3P sellers. Most people don't know that fact. That is an absolute fact. So when you go to the Accelerate show, the people that care about the 3P sellers are there. So we feel like we're part of the Amazon community. We feel like they care about us. They're creating programs for us. They're creating better ways for us to be successful on Amazon. So it's that one time a year that we get to learn a lot, and we don't feel like we're the stepchild. So, I mean, that's how I feel. I hate to feel like the stepchild.
yeah, I mean, stepchild could be a dirty word, but overall, I mean, it's a great experience. We've met a lot of great people, other sellers. I think I might have said it on a podcast once or twice, but there's no playbook for Amazon. As much as we want to use Amazon's resources like the Seller University, there's a lot of situations that are very unique, one time that you'll ever have to deal with it. And without having a good community of other sellers that have gone through similar experiences, it's near to impossible to find these solutions.
And yeah, I mean, also talking to people at Amazon is not the easiest thing in the world. Like, we're fortunate enough that we're big enough where there are some people that we talk to at Amazon, but they do change their roles quite often. So you don't always have the same person, and a bit of a revolving door. Some people stay in their jobs longer than others, but most people that work at Amazon are working through the company so they can grow at the company. So you don't really have that great relationship. When you go to the show, you get to meet the heads of all these different areas that are going to be around for a while that you can create a relationship with. And the relationships are really important. And again, I'm not trying to sell their show, but if you're interested in the marketplace and you're interested in learning more, it's a really good place to go. And we're definitely going to be there this year.
Yeah, if you're going, reach out to Adam or myself. We'd love to connect. And
don't reach out to Vince, whatever you do.
Ever.
Oh, man, Vince.
Off to the side.
Yeah, you shouldn't be like that because Vince is on so many of our calls with the brands and talking to them. I don't know, Vince, I'll put you on the spot. What's your favorite pain point that they bring up?
I think you hit a lot of it in the 1P, 3P discussion. I think that's what we've seen the most of over the last couple months. I will say, and kind of tying back to the Accelerate show, one of the gems that I thought you brought back last year was the B2B or Amazon business portion of the business. And we could do an entire LinkedIn Live or podcast on that topic.
Let's do that.
But we definitely have started working more closely with commercial brands that are more focused on B2B customers. And it's a humongous marketplace and growing faster than the consumer marketplace. And I think a lot of people, including the brands, don't know that. So
I think that's a brilliant point. And Amazon Business, we didn't talk about it yet. We can plug it a little bit. But Amazon Business is, people would think, well, it's companies that are buying products from Amazon. But what people don't understand is when you look at the companies that are buying on Amazon, there's most of the Fortune 500 or the Fortune 1000, most of the major hospitals in the United States, most of the educational institutions from elementary schools to high schools to colleges and universities, all buying from Amazon. So public sector, private sector, all buying from Amazon. It's not just mom and pops. Now, there's plenty of mom and pops buying. But if you're a commercial company, whether you have one person in your company or 1 million people in your company, you could set up an account with Amazon. Amazon would give you credit terms. You get all kinds of different discounts and special workflows through their software, tracking, management. It's amazing. You can also get even bid pricing. So if you're looking to get a special price for a large order, you can put in a quote and people can give you a lower price back. So it's a big part of their business. And what brands don't always understand is how big it is, how important. They think Amazon is a consumer marketplace. It is, but it's a B2B marketplace. And let's say you are a manufacturer of soccer balls, Wilson soccer balls, I'll make it up. We don't work with them, but it's a soccer ball. People think, oh, kids buy a soccer ball, they want to play. That's great, but schools buy, community centers buy. So many large institutions buy soccer balls, and they don't buy one, they buy 50, 100. We sell volleyball nets, really high-end volleyball nets for a brand. And when we look at the sales, so many of the sales are coming from businesses. We could tell that they're coming through the business portal because it gets tagged with the business flag on it, so we know it's a business customer. But they don't usually buy one. They buy many. And then we get bids from companies saying, we want to buy 1,000 of these. We want to buy 500 of these. And you could put in a special price working with your brand if you want to do a private offer to these companies. So commercial is great. It doesn't have to be just a product that's built for companies. It could be a soccer ball, or it could be a networking switch. It doesn't matter. Almost every product applies. Even fingernail polish we sell. And who buys that? I mean, beauty salons are buying that. So if you want to sell to commercial customers, you should definitely think about Amazon Business.
And it's definitely a wormhole of a conversation because there's so much that goes into the B2B program at Amazon. Plus, they're integrating new features quicker than they are for the consumer side. Because it's such a rapid growing sector within Amazon. And what happens when you create your business account within Amazon to purchase for your business is you get to enroll, whether you're a government, education, whatever sector you're in. And what you can now do is, depending on what grants you are offered from the government, from your local communities, you can sort through Amazon listings based off of if they meet the criteria for these grants. And what we often see is a big portion of sell-through comes in at the end of the year because they're sitting on this funding, which they now get to utilize for their businesses. And that's when we see a big influx of customers purchasing through their B2B channel or portal for a lot of our commercial grade products.
So if you're like a company that has to buy, or a government agency that has to buy X% of your products from a minority business or a small business, you can go onto Amazon Business and you could find small businesses that meet that requirement, that are certified. Amazon has all the certifications loaded, and you could find minority-owned, small business, women-owned, veteran-owned, and you could buy the percentage. So if you need to make a quota at your company of things that you're buying from these minority businesses, you can go to Amazon and easily find it and fulfill that requirement. So that's a great point, and I didn't bring it up. Cool. So that was a plug for Amazon Business. We love it because it's usually much bigger orders. We've been working closely with the Amazon Business team at Amazon to come up with different configurations of the product. So it's not just singles and doubles, but it's cases and pallets of stuff. Amazon once told us they sold a truckload of paper to somebody. So what's a truckload? They had to create an ace and a part to be able to sell a truckload of paper. And it's like, I want to do that. I want to sell a truckload of paper.
Maybe we could sell a truckload of nail glue.
Nail glue.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love nail glue. We used to love nail glue anyway. So lots of cool stuff we talked about today. Any final thoughts, guys, that you want to bring to the table?
I think for me, you guys covered a lot today. I think as a closing thought, we talked about Prime Day in October. We talked about Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It's obviously the Super Bowl for everybody in selling to close out the year, get back in the black. So it's just a good time to kind of practice, go through your checklist, do the best practices, make sure you're on top of everything for the marketplace and for e-commerce in general.
Yeah, and I think it's a great time for that, whether you're a 1P or 3P. At the end of the day, everybody's having some type of conflict selling on Amazon, and there's pain points all over. So it's really important that we continue to speak on these pain points, work to educate each other, and find partners, whether it's ourselves or similar, to maximize your Amazon business potential.
My final thoughts are, first of all, we talk about Amazon and Amazon squeezing brands and trying to get more margin for themselves and less for the brands. And that might be true, but that's kind of true of the big box retailers also. So Amazon provides us this humongous marketplace for everybody to play in, but you need to know the rules, and the rules aren't super clear. So, if you're a brand, whether you're selling on Amazon or not selling on Amazon, you need to understand Amazon and have an Amazon strategy. We're here to help people and brands figure out what that strategy is, and then hopefully help them execute that strategy. But if you have no Amazon strategy, if you don't want to sell on Amazon and you feel like your product shouldn't be on Amazon, I'm going to tell you it most likely is on Amazon anyway, and you don't want that. You don't want some seller, some entrepreneur to find your product somewhere and just put it on the marketplace. You want to have a lot more control over your brand. Everybody needs to control their brand, and you need to have that Amazon strategy. So we're here to help. But there's so many benefits. As long as you have a partner that can help you navigate this incredible marketplace, you'll wind up being a winner and doing really well. But it's not easy. So we're here to help.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today on the LinkedIn Live, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.